I was asked a little bit to share a little bit more in this setting about what was covered at the work session, and a couple on March 10th. A little bit about fire coverage and some cost information. So I just wanted to share that information with a couple updates based on incidents here. And so at the March 10th work session, what we talked a lot about was fire coverage. And really, the reasons for the review were pretty straightforward. While we want to continue to prioritize public safety, we need to have the best response we can for every resident in Orono. And we have great departments around us: Wayzata, Maple Plain, Excelsior, Mound, Hamel, Loretto, and Plymouth, and I certainly don't mean to miss other communities. But in this review, what was discussed is in 2002, when I was the chief of the fire department, Long Lake Fire Department, the Long Lake Fire Department took over the northwest area of Orono, and at that time, we reluctantly did so at the direction of Orono. In 2018, again, the Long Lake Fire Department was directed to take over the eastern area of Orono, and James, at the time, also, it's my understanding, reluctantly did so as well to remove that from Maple Plain, or from Wayzata. So another comment that I wanted to make is, since 2018, Orono has provided very little capital funds to support Long Lake Fire Department for the purchase of any capital equipment, and I'll comment on that in a little bit. So I just want to make note of that. So based on the conversations with the current Long Lake Fire Department and Wayzata Fire Chief, and I haven't talked to Maple Plain, we both agreed that there may be an interest or a need to at least have a discussion about having Wayzata take over the eastern part of Orono again. So the intent of that work session, what we discussed and have made a recommendation, is that not only do the Orono staff reach out to the cities of Wayzata, but also Maple Plain, to begin the conversations about possibly restoring different coverage services, whether it be with Wayzata or Maple Plain, depending upon the area. One of the comments that Claire made at the time that I think is very important is that it's going to be very important that we verify data and ensure the proper public safety response is ensured as a part of any change that we would consider making. So we want to make sure that we're very thoughtful in maintaining our priority of public safety. So another area that was discussed at the time, and I'll just provide some updated information, is around Orono Fire Department incident response. And so this incident response is information from January 4th through March 21st, which is 11 calendar weeks. So during that time, the Orono Fire Department has had 33 total calls. Of those total calls, 24 of those were handled by the duty crew, 4 were handled by the duty officer, and 5 were handled or had an all-call, paid-on-call response at the time. And just a side note, over the last 7 weeks, there has not been a paid-on-call incident response over the last 7 weeks, and 2 in the last 10 weeks. So again, that was information that was shared, and I just simply updated that. So in addition to sharing that, I also shared some information around fire department service costs and capital improvement, and I wanted to share those as well. So these are actuals budgeted and planned within the CIP. So in 2023, there's been $895,000, $393 spent in 2023 on fire services. Of that, the Orono Fire Department costs were $384,190. The operating costs were $203,462, and the capital costs were $180,728. During that same year, 2023, the fire service contract cost paid to Long Lake was $511,203. In 2024, the total cost for fire service to Orono was $2,862,874. Of that, $2,233,523 were Orono Fire Department costs. To break that down a little bit further, operating costs were $828,378. Facility costs were $473,145, and capital costs were $932,000. In that same year, the Long Lake Fire Department costs for the service contract were $629,391. And there will be a credit coming back this spring for some of the expense we had associated with Long Lake Fire Department. So again, in total in 2024, the costs were $2,862,874. In 2025, the costs are $2 million projected, budgeted or actual are $2,317,343. Of that $2,317,000, the specific Orono Fire Department costs are $1,554,600. To further break that down, the operating costs are $1,040,000, and the capital costs look to be $514,600, although the CIP reflects $699,500, depending upon the approval of a purchase. The Long Lake Fire Department costs to the city of Orono are a service contract for $577,849. There is a capital number of $184,849, which is not currently approved. So again, the grand total for 2025 for what's planned or has been spent is $2,317,343. So for the 3 years, the City of Orono Fire Services actuals and planned have been $6,075,610. The Orono Fire Department costs of that $6 million is $4,172,312, and the Long Lake costs are $1,903,297, less a pending credit that's coming based upon 2024. It should be noted, by the way, that one of the things is that over the period since 2018, a lot of capital hasn't been purchased, and then it's been accumulating and has been spent. And so some of that capital has been necessary, but the decision to not approve it when you were in a different relationship with Long Lake was something that pushed it to compacting when that was being spent. So in total, I should also mention that there's another 9 years of capital planning for Orono Fire Department equipment that totals $6,270,800. So in total, what's been spent or what's been planned for the Orono Fire Department without operational or facility costs, which would be substantial, is $12,346,410. So I just wanted to share a little bit more about what I shared at the workshop. One of the important pieces of why I shared that was just to make sure it feeds into the discussions we've had with our partners in Long Lake. Make no mistake, public safety is our priority, but fiscal responsibility is also an important factor. So we've had ongoing meetings since the beginning of the year, and throughout that entire meeting process, we've been working to come to an agreement to bring the departments back together. To be even more clear, the goal is not to go back to the past or jam things together. The goal is to consolidate the departments and take the best from both forward. What we're saying yes to is collaboration, partnership, and fiscal responsibility. What we're saying no to is isolation and independence. So as Bob and I have been on the negotiating team, the tenets of the agreement that we're going to be talking more about this evening include, as it relates to fire service,